sponsored program paid for by Robin Gwaltney, Gwaltney Group, RE/MAX Results. Welcome to Rochester Real Estate, featuring Robin Gwaltney from Gwaltney Group, RE/MAX Results, and Andy Brownell. Here's Andy Brownell on Rochester's News Talk, 1340 KROC AM and 96.9 FM.
Good morning, Andy Brownell with News Talk 1340 KROC AM and 96.9 FM, along with Robin Gwaltney, Gwaltney Group, RE/MAX Results. Good morning, Robin.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing good.
Great.
Good. Getting adjusted to summer, shifting to fall, but
Well, I think we have a few nice days ahead of us in the 70s.
Yes, we do.
So
yeah,
hang on to it. Hang on to it while it lasts.
Every last one counts, and gosh, it gets dark so early now.
I used to absolutely love that, because after a really busy spring and summer of selling houses until 8 and 9 o'clock at night, I always kind of welcomed when fall came and people would stick to taking time off during the day or look at houses on the weekends. But this year it's not working out so great, because we're in our hot summer market with short hours. So it's actually causing me a lot of stress.
Now you got to get a big flashlight.
Yeah, I think it's good to see a house in the daylight.
Just put a big spotlight on your vehicle like the police use.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, so it's been a long time since we've actually done this. But this week we wanted to do a refresher course on being a first-time home buyer, correct?
Yes, I actually had something happen this past week that really made me think it's important to talk about this. I had a young couple contact me about a beautiful listing that I had, and this was not your typical first-time home buyer listing price point. It was in the high fives, okay? And they called me and asked if they could see it. And I, of course, asked them if they were working with a real estate agent, and they said they were not. They had been pre-approved, but until that time, they had only considered building a new house. And now they had seen this one and wanted to take a look at it. So I agreed to meet them there, and they loved it. And they said, we think we want to make an offer, but we'd like to go home and talk about it. And I said, of course. And they had already given me their pre-approval letter, so I knew that part was done. So it gets tricky because, we've talked a little bit about dual agency in the past. So I told them, I already represent the seller, and so if you'd like me to write the offer and represent you as well, that creates what we call dual agency. So now it's my responsibility to work equally hard for the seller and the buyer. Therefore, the ultimate goal is to create a win-win. So what I said to them is, because you're new at this, I'm going to send you an email advising you, or I shouldn't say advising, but informing you of how the process typically goes. So what I did, being in dual agency, is I also copied the sellers on the email so that they could see how I was advising the buyer. And I said, in this market, when things are priced correctly, they are typically selling for anywhere between 99% and 103%. So, basically, that's a nice way of saying lowball offers aren't going to get you this house. And I said, I'm a very experienced agent. I'm very good at pricing properties. And again, when they're priced right, then this is what they typically sell for. And I talked to them about, and I guess I should just talk through it. I basically said, you'll write an offer. And you won't write it. You'll give me the facts as far as what do you want to pay for a price, what's your earnest money, what's your down payment, what's your closing date. So I spelled it all out in an email, what I would need from them. And I said, I'll put the offer together, I'll send it back to you for electronic signatures, and then I'll present it to the sellers. At that time, if they agree with it, they'll sign it. If they don't agree with it, they'll counter it, and we'll go from there. And once we have an agreed upon purchase price and terms, then we will go to the next step. So then I explained to them that once all the terms have been agreed upon, the next step would be to get the inspection done. And I explained to them how that works And when the inspector comes in, that typically they could show up right at the last 30 minutes. The inspector would go over with them what they found, if there were any issues. And at that time, they would tell me if there was anything they wanted to ask for. And we would take that back to the seller. And so I literally went step by step by step by step to explain how this would look from the beginning till the end. And after all that, they sent me an email back and said, we would like to make an offer of, and it was considerably below the asking price. Like I'm talking $30,000 below the asking price.
Discount price.
And I felt so bad because I'm like, if these people had been working with an agent, I was thrilled that they had taken the first step and gotten pre-approval. But if they had been out looking at houses or at least meeting with an agent and being kind of educated on what to expect, I think they would have been in a much better position, because it wasn't that they wanted to pay less for the house. They just didn't want to pay too much. They really were unsure of how to go about it, even though I had given them, pretty much step by step. But keep in mind, this is the first day they saw the house, and this is well over $500,000, and that's kind of scary. And there were 2 other offers from 2 other agents, and I told them there are 2 other offers. Do you want to change your offer, or do you wish to leave it as it is? And they said, oh, we'll leave it as it is. And I said, okay. So then, of course, they didn't get it, and I called them back to tell them they didn't get the house, and they said, oh, we'll pay more, we'll raise our price. And I'm like, oh, you can't raise it now, the house is sold. But I felt terrible, because I wanted to say to them at the beginning, listen, you've got to offer full price or more, or you're not going to get this house. But as a dual agent in Minnesota, that's, we're one of the states that has that, where you can't give them specific advice, because then it sounds like you're working harder for the seller than I am for them. But it's really not the case, because in this situation, they didn't get the house, even after I, spelled it out that houses are selling for full price or more when they're priced properly.
Well, you've shown me the statistics month after month of where I can't remember the exact acronym that you use for that, but it shows that this is the list price and the house is selling for that exact range that you just mentioned, the 98% to 103, 105%.
And I understand that, that was the first day they met me. And so, unfortunately, so many salespeople in all fields have bad reputations as, saying whatever you want to say to make the sale or whatever. But, I was really giving them valid information and trying to help them. And I think afterward they felt bad, but they were very appreciative and, thanked me for trying to educate them, and, sad that they kind of hadn't really took it for, what it was worth. But now they have asked me to help them find another property. So now I feel like I can really spend some time educating them on what to expect and, how we'll have to write the offer regardless of who has it listed. Because as long as I'm doing that while we're not in the middle of the transaction, there's no harm at all.
Right.
So it is just so important for buyers, because the market is so competitive, to make sure that they really do kind of know what they're doing, or be sure to be working with someone who's educating you so that you're prepared, right?
Right. It almost gives me the impression they thought this was almost like the old used car deal, where you lowball the dealer and then everybody kind of meets in the middle somewhere,
Yeah, I feel so bad, because it's just not the way it's done. And, even sellers, I'll tell sellers what price I feel like they should list their house for, and they'll say, well, shouldn't we go up 10 or 15,000 to give a little wiggle room? And I'm like, no, we really need to price it where it's going to sell, where it's going to appraise. We want to be fair. That'd be like saying, every single thing that's for sale it is priced higher so that you can negotiate it down. It's like, no, let's just price it for the value it's worth. And then sometimes, even when you price it the value it's worth, people fight over it, so they end up making more than it's worth. And that could be perceived as, oh, we priced it too low. But no, we priced it just right. And that's why that happened.
It created the competition. So, okay.
Right, exactly.
We do have to take our break. We're talking about what you can expect as a first-time home buyer, and I got a lot of questions for you, so we'll continue talking about this when we come back with Robin Gwaltney, Gwaltney Group-RE results on Newstalk 1340, KROC AM and 96.9 FM.
We'll be right back with Robin Gwaltney and Andy Brownell on Rochester Real Estate. This is News Talk 1340, KROC AM and 96.9 FM.
It's difficult to be a man nowadays, difficult to be a husband.
Andy Brownell on Rochester's News Talk 1340, KROC AM and 96.9 FM.
Welcome back. I'm Andy Brownell with Robin Gwaltney with Gwaltney Group-RE results here on Newstalk 1340, KROC AM and 96.9 FM. And we're talking about being a first-time buyer and all the things you kind of need to know before you jump into the fray. And you brought up a great example of why you want to have somebody with a lot of experience and that willingness to educate you, guide you along that path. And you
and it's every market is different. There were times in my real estate career where if you were a buyer and you wanted to come in and you wanted to offer $10,000 or $20,000 less, the seller was almost expecting it. But those days are just gone.
And we've talked about that before. The inventory is the biggest part of that.
Yes,
situation.
34% less than this time last year. That's an incredible number.
It is. A lot of people out there trying to buy and not a lot of product to buy. But you mentioned that they had they've been pre-approved.
Yes.
Is that usually the first step, or would you recommend doing something before that?
Well, that's funny because it's sort of like what comes first, right? The horse or the cart. So yes, you could get pre-approved. If you have a relationship with a banker that you know and trust and you want to say, hey, I'm ready to buy a house, I want to get pre-approved, the chances are that banker is going to have good working relationships with realtors that they trust, and they're going to put you, in contact with somebody that they feel is going to do a good job for you. Just like if you call the realtor first and say, hey, I'm reaching out to you because I'm ready to start the home buying process, we are going to put you in contact with a lender that's going to do a good job for you if you need that.
Right.
So we're going to help you, one's going to help either way. So these people actually that I was speaking about earlier in the show, they were expecting to build a house. So they had been meeting with builders, but I think it had taken them a little while, and they were kind of really having a hard time deciding where to build and what type of house to build. And imagine, again, they're first-time home buyers, and they're going to build a high-end home for the very first time owning a home. That is scary in itself. There's just so much to know. Even people who have owned houses, when they build for the first time, that's a new learning curve.
Oh my gosh,
yes. It's just important to have the guidance of a professional realtor who can help you not make big, bad, expensive mistakes.
And even if you're building, you mentioned that, because I know just from my own experience, you make big mistakes. And hindsight is 20/20, and I imagine that it works out fine if it's an entry-level home, but if you're talking about a $500,000 home, you're going to go, oh no, we should have done this. And to have somebody there along with you going, from experience, that's probably not a great idea. You probably want to do it this way. Yes. And
even with entry-level homes, these days we're talking $300,000. People are building their first home in the 300s. That is not a small amount of money.
Okay, so regardless of how you got the pre-approval, when I sit down with you as this first-time home buyer and you talk about this education component, what kind of things are you going to talk to me about?
Okay, so we'll talk market specific. So if you're coming to me now, today, I'm going to say, okay, we are in a crazy market where inventory is scarce and buyers are abundant because interest rates, as you know, are very low. So we have to be ready to get in there and be aggressive, and I teach people what the things are we can do to win in multiple offers. Okay. So it's really important so that when you find that house, it's like, okay, this is the one I want. What do I have to do to get it? And some people might say, oh, that's easy. You bid $10,000 over the asking price. Well, something, that's not always the answer, because if the house is already priced at the very top of where it's going to appraise, you might be able to go over the price some, but it's not going to be a crazy amount, because if you do and you win, it's not over yet, because as soon as your lender sends the appraiser out there, if it doesn't appraise, now we're back to the negotiating board, or, potentially the whole deal could fall apart. So that's not always, it's not as simple as it might seem.
So what you're saying is if you try to shortcut it that way and bid up, it could be that the bank will say, we're not going to give you a mortgage for that amount.
Right, and then the people are not in the position maybe to offset the difference between what it's appraising for. And not only that, even if they are, they don't have a good feeling about buying a house knowing that they're paying more than it's worth, and rightfully so.
So do you coach them, Robin, on, how do I want to say this? Discipline to be able to walk away?
Absolutely. I say this is not an emotional purchase. This is a business investment. Okay, this is a big dollar investment, and we have to keep our head about us, and we're not buying with our heart, we're buying with our brains. Okay, so we have to make sure we're not going to pay more than it's worth. I always tell people, yes, your job is to find a house that you like and you would be comfortable living in. My job is to make sure you're buying a house that's a good, sound financial investment.
That must prove challenging at times.
Sometimes, but typically people will come around. I mean, if somebody wanted to make an offer that's ridiculous, like they want to pay way more than I know the house is worth, and trust me, I've been in that position, I just say to them, if you really want to offer that much on that house, then I suggest you call another agent, because I wouldn't sleep at night knowing that I wrote an offer that far above the asking price, knowing full well that house is not worth that much.
Okay, so how do you deal with the buyer who is, who always thinks that they're the great negotiator?
Well, it's not usually the buyer. It's usually the buyer's family or friends.
Okay, because I mean, I love to, when you're traveling and you go to the flea market and the person's asking this, how you always offer someone less, and it's kind of a game, but it's not that in real estate. But, hey, we're going to, there's a little playing room in here, kind of deal.
Right.
How do you deal with that kind of person?
Well, what happens
or their
is
family.
So all right, let's just say the house is listed at $320,000, and I think it is a steal of a deal. So my suggestion is, okay, right now we're the only offer, let's write $320,000. Or I've heard from the other agents that there's 4 offers coming. How high do you want to go? And let me, let you, and I'll, guide you and advise you if I think it's smart to go that high. How comfortable are you going 5,000 over? How comfortable are you going 10,000 over? Or whatever the case is. But if they say to me, I want to offer $20,000 less than the asking price, I say, okay, so I'm telling you that the house is priced right, and that there's, according to the listing agent, and they're not going to lie, because people always say, how do you know they're telling the truth? Because they have nothing to gain by telling a lie. They're not going to lie. Okay, so if they tell me there's 3 other offers coming, there are 3 other offers coming. So if I say there's 3 other offers coming on the property, the chances of you getting it if you write an offer for $20,000 below the asking price are 0.
Right.
And do you really want me to do that? And then they say, oh no, I better write more. I better go for full price. And I say, no, if you don't feel good about this house, good enough to write full price, then we'll move on. I'm not going to force anybody to write an offer for something they don't feel good about. I would be more apt to say, put pressure on when I think they're writing an offer for more than the house is worth.
Oh,
okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I want to be their realtor for life. This is not about a transaction, a paycheck, and we're done. I'm at the point in my career now, Andy, where I am selling houses to the kids of the people that I sold houses to when I started.
I love that. That's awesome.
So it's about building relationships and taking good care of my clients. So anyway, if they insist on writing a low offer, I write the low offer. They don't get the house, and then they're like, oh, shoot, she knew what she was talking about. I should have listened. Sometimes it takes people, to lose a house or two before they get serious about writing a solid offer. And that's okay. I mean, it's fine. I want people to, go through the process until they're 100% comfortable. And that's why I said I felt so bad for that couple last week, because after they didn't get it, they're like, we'll pay more, we'll go over the asking price. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you guys. I mean, that's what I explained to you, and you don't have the opportunity forever. So, yeah.
Okay.
And there are states where they do escrow, where you can keep outbidding the offer that's on the table all the way up till closing day. Oh my gosh, I'd be a stressed out mess. I mean, here, once the offer goes, the inspection's done and the contingencies are removed and the deal goes to pending, that's it. Now it's not available for anybody else.
So you're saying it's almost like an auction that's taking place in these other states for this?
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I actually was reading some comments on a real estate chat page, and one agent told me that out in San Francisco, he wrote an offer, all cash offer, $200,000 above the asking price with 0 contingencies, and did not win.
Oh my gosh.
It'd be way too stressful for me.
Yeah, I can see. Yeah. You know what?
That would not be fun.
we have to take our break, Robin. We'll be back in just a few seconds right here on News Talk 1340, KROC AM and 96.9 FM.
We'll be right back with Robin Gwaltney and Andy Brownell on Rochester Real Estate. This is News Talk 1340, KROC AM and 96.9 FM.
Looking for a natural deodorant that actually works? Introducing Myro, a highly effective aluminum-free plant-based deodorant that's
Andy Brownell on Rochester's News Talk 1340, KROC AM and 96.9 FM.
Welcome back. Andy Brownell, along with Robin Gwaltney, with Gwaltney Group-RE results on this Saturday morning here at News Talk 1340, KROC AM and 96.9 FM. We've been talking about the first-time home buyer, the pitfalls, the things you should be aware of and know as you head into this marketplace. And so you're not disappointed.
Well, and just really, the importance. I think it's just the importance of having good guidance, the importance of working with an agent that you trust, so that when you are saying, what do you think? What should I offer? How much should I offer? How can I win this one? Is it okay not to do an inspection? All the questions that they come up with, they have to be working with somebody that they trust to guide them properly, because it's tough enough to win in multiple offer situations, or even to get a good offer accepted. But if you don't have the guidance of an experienced agent and somebody who's, known for problem solving and winning in multiple offers and having good relationships with the other agents, it can be really difficult.
So are the contingencies a big part of this too? I suppose you want to reduce the contingencies as much as you possibly can.
Well, some of the factors we look at, like when I'm the listing agent looking at the multiple offers coming in, which one has the strongest financing? If somebody is going to do an inspection, how soon are they going to do it, and how soon are they going to let us know what they're asking for? Sometimes people will write in there, I've even seen, we will do an inspection, but we'll tell you up front that we're not going to ask for any more than $1,000 in seller repairs. Well, that kind of lets the seller understand that, so it's not like they're going to come back and ask for $5,000 worth of things. They're not going to ask for a new roof. They're not going to ask for, because they've already told me up front that they're not going to ask for more than $1,000 in repairs. Okay, so the reason that would be beneficial to a buyer is the buyer still can have an inspection. They can still have the house checked out. Now, if there are more than $1,000 repairs and they do decide to walk away, they're protected. They still get their earnest money back because they didn't go in there haphazardly and say, no inspection, and then buy the house and find out there's all kinds of issues with it. So, I mean, there's so much to know. So I can't even, in this short little show that we do, I can't even begin to tackle why it's important to have a realtor guiding you through the whole entire process so that you make really good decisions and end up with a really great home at a really good price.
I think you provided some pretty darn good examples of why it is important.
Thanks.
That's for sure. Okay. What is it called now? Is it Septober Days?
Septoberfest in Wabasha. Yes, the month of September, the month of October, put it together, Septober. So it's kind of a fun thing. They started this, I don't even know how many years ago, but several, and they just keep adding to it each year. So people come from Rochester, people come from the Twin Cities, and they park their cars and they just walk around the quaint little old historic town of Wabasha and look at all the fall festive decorations. There's a little maze made out of straw bales for the kids to run through. There's all kinds of wood cutouts that are painted brightly. It's really pretty, and brings people to town. It's really nice. I mean, normally they would be coming to also go to the Eagle Center, which was, closed most of this year, unfortunately. But there's other little shops that are open and stuff. And so we thought, what a great time to do the grand opening at our Wabasha office. We're so excited about it. We've got 3 agents on the team that will work primarily in that area. I mean, not to say they don't do business in Rochester and elsewhere, but they're going to be officed out of the Wabasha office, and they're excited to show off their workspace. I myself spend Wednesdays there, so if anybody wants to come in and see me, I'm there on Wednesdays. But this coming weekend, not today, but next weekend, we're going to have our grand opening. So Friday, September 25th, from 3 in the afternoon until 8 in the afternoon. And actually, it's kind of 3 till 10 because we have a really great band called the Chubs. They're a local band from Rochester that are going to be playing under the bridge from 6 until 10. So we'll be serving food and beverages from 3 till 8, and we've got some fun giveaways, hand sanitizers and sunglasses and all kinds of Gwaltney Group fun stuff, and tours of the building. So it should be a lot of fun. And then the music will be under the bridge, like I said, from 6 until 10. And then on Saturday, we're going to open again from 10 until 2. So if people are out walking around on Saturday afternoon and they want to stop in for some goodies and for a tour of the building, we would just love to invite everybody in. We're so excited to be in the Wabasha community and really want to do a lot of community outreach.
And it's a historic building.
It's beautiful.
Gorgeous building, yeah. Okay, so that's next weekend. Everybody
a week away.
Put it on your calendar for Friday and Saturday, okay? So, Robin, if somebody wants to get a hold of you, if they're one of these first-time buyers and they heard us talking and want you to be their guide, how do they get a hold of you?
I would love to do it, and my cell phone number is 507-259-4926. And, of course, we're always looking for more inventory. So even if you're a seller and you want to put your house on the market, please call me as well.
Yeah, that was the other thing, the multiple offer thing. Usually, you, as a seller, you're going to benefit from that. So that's for sure.
Correct.
All right, until next week, Robin, thank you so much. And again, we'll plug your open house on Friday and Saturday at the Wabasha office. That's Robin Gwaltney, Gwaltney Group RE/MAX results here on News Talk 1340, KROC AM and 96.9 FM.
Mayo Clinic Radio on the house. Dave Ramsey.